Welcome to the Friday Happy Hour with victory strategist, award-winning author and your happy hour host, Annmarie Kelly. Each week, Annmarie chats with women who have reinvented, started over or wrote fabulous next chapters. They share how they overcame their midlife challenges and how you can too. So kick back with some good happy hour something to drink and enjoy today's show.
All of my friends tell me that I'm the good girl, yes they do. They all see me as being so perfect, little Miss Goody Two Shoes. If I do something a little risque, they all gasp and I just say, good girl.
Hi and welcome. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour with me, Annmarie Kelly, and I'm that recovering good girl and your victorious woman empowerment partner. And this is where us victory chicks and you guys who care about us meet on Fridays to chat about things we can do to make our lives better and more fulfilling and give our lives a little jazz and sparkle. And thanks for coming to Happy Hour today. If you like reading suspense novels, you're in for a treat today because author and local victory chick Lisa Scottoline is joining us for Happy Hour. I just finished her newest book, After Anna, and if you're a Scottoline fan, you'll enjoy it. And Lisa's going to be here in a few minutes. Well, this week has been something. You know, first of all, Villanova won the NCAA championship on Monday night. And I was in Philly for Easter weekend, so that's where I watched the Final Four game. And I watched it at McGillen's Bar. Didn't you ever go there? It is the oldest bar in Philadelphia. And they actually still have the original paperwork for the bar from the 1700s. Well, now it's more of a pickup bar. But I was thinking, as close as it is to where Ben Franklin lived, maybe it was a pickup bar then, too. You know that Ben Franklin? I was glad to be there, but not all the crowd was into watching the game because, you know, it was a pickup bar. In fact, the bar had, and the game didn't come on until like 9 o'clock or something. So, you know, we were getting sort of into pickup time. In fact, the bar had music playing through the whole game. So we could see everything about the game, not hear anything. But we could have gone to the sports bar, like, the field house at the Reading Terminal Market, because we were staying at 12th and Juniper across the street from the City Hall. But, you know, and both were walking distance to our hotel. But, you know, we chose McGillen's, and it was actually pretty neat. You know, with stuff on the wall that anybody under 40 wouldn't even recognize, like a sign from Lit Brothers. Do you remember that department store? And another one, of course, from Wanamaker's. Looking at the walls of McGillen's was like a trip through memory lane, and the memory lane of Philly history. Of course, Villanova won and went into the championship game on Monday night. But that game was on at 9:30, and, you know, we can't really drink during the work week, Joseph in particular, so because he gets up so early. So instead of a bar, we watched it from home, and it just wasn't the same. But we were really glad that they won. And what a year. Do you wonder if there's like some rabid but dead Philly sports fan sprinkling pixie dust on all of our Philly teams? I mean, the Eagles and Villanova both winning. It's the first time ever that a Super Bowl champ and a national men's basketball champ won in the same city in the same year. And what about our Sixers? Geez Louise, after all those bad seasons, they might win the whole thing. And, you know, Charles Barkley has any psychic good stuff. He's saying they will. So I'm going to vote on his side this time. And then the Flyers are doing good, and the Phillies won their home opener yesterday for the first time in, 7 years? It's like there's magic happening in the city. You know, we Philly fans don't know what to do with ourselves. All this winning, and I'm thinking President Trump was wrong when he said we'd be winning so much we'd get tired of it. I don't think you ever get tired of winning. And even if you aren't a sports fan, there's something pretty neat about, you know, the rolling levels of excitement. The Eagles, the Cats, the Sixers. It's so fun, isn't it? So on Easter weekend, we stayed at a hotel across from City Hall, which, you know, is historical in its own right. Because did you know when it was first built, City Hall was the tallest building in the world? And And then, until 1986, it was the tallest building in Philadelphia. And it used to be that no Philly building could be taller than Billy Penn's hat. Now, that ended about 30 years ago. I think it wasn't it Comcast? I think it was Comcast. But still, Billy Penn is, now the building isn't the tallest anymore, but Billy Penn, that statue, is still the tallest statue atop any building in the world. Pretty neat, huh? My father, who grew up in South Philly, told me that when he was a kid, you could walk to and around the top of Billy Penn's hat. And probably back then, at that height, you could see for miles and miles. Now, I think you can still take an elevator up to the hat, but all you would probably see are skyscrapers. Well, in Philly, maybe not if you go up North Broad Street towards Temple. Maybe not there. Well, while in Philly, Joseph and I went to the Museum of the American Revolution, and at the museum, there was a whole presentation about the Battle of the Brandywine, which is, right here in our backyard. And the Birmingham Meeting House, over there on Birmingham Road, that's where they took all the wounded soldiers. That battle spread for miles and miles, and that one section that's a walking area, excuse me, that's where I go for walks there. And sometimes, around September 11th, which is when they have the anniversary, there's always almost always a reenactment. But sometimes, when I walk the battlefield by myself, I wonder if any of the spirits of those men are still lurking there. And how could I not? You know how I am about ghosts. I don't want them to actually see them because that would freak me out. But I'm curious about what they can tell me about history. Both the city of Philadelphia and our town of Westchester are so rich in Revolutionary War history. And I think it's pretty neat to have all of that right in our own backyard. Oh, and you know what else we saw while we were in Philly? The new Barnes Museum. And here's something funny. Joseph has been tormenting me to go to the Barnes since it opened. And I resisted because I went to it when it was in Lower Merion, and I just had this feeling. And I knew it wouldn't be the same. I just had that feeling that it wouldn't. But Joseph was so insistent. So while we were in town, and because on Easter it was free, we went. And actually, we got there. We went to South Street. We went to the Easter Parade on South Street. We did a lot of that stuff. But just before, when we took that Philly Flash bus back to the hotel, and back to the Barnes, and we were there about a half hour before the closing. And I figured it this way: if my intuition was wrong, we'd go back another time and see it. If I was right, then it only cost us about an hour of our time. Sadly, for my part, my intuition was correct. The energy was very different at the Barnes in Philly than when it was in Merion. But I was curious to hear what Joseph thought. That was my thinking. I was curious to see what he thought about it. But he agreed. He said at first he didn't think 30 minutes was going to be enough time. Like they warned us at the beginning. We got there just before 4:30 and they closed at 5. But by the time he got into the first big room, he said he realized it would have been that a half hour was more than enough. He was so disappointed. I don't know if you've been to it yet. If you have never been and you love art, it's a feast for the eyes. Renoir, Matisse, Van Gogh. It's an amazing and fabulous collection. And the environment can't take that away from the art. But if you saw the paintings when they were still at the Barnes in Merion, you'll notice a difference. And have you ever watched the documentary, The Art of the Steal? It's about how the Barnes got moved. I saw it a few years ago at Penn State Great Valley. But on Easter, after going to the Barnes, Joseph and I were all fired up about we were fired up about it on the way home. So when we got home, we rented it from Amazon. It's less shocking because it's already been moved, and I think this was before it got moved. But I'd forgotten about Lincoln University's connection to the Barnes legacy, and that's an interesting one to check out. And if you want to see it, you don't have to rent it. I found it for you, free on YouTube. and I posted the link on today's radio wrap-up at victoriouswoman.com. Well, before we go to break, I want to tell you one last thing. Joseph and I went to Philly on Saturday and stayed overnight. And I've done that a couple of times over the years, even though I only live about an hour away. Doing Philly overnight as a tourist is pretty good. And, you know, I'm in Philly from time to time through the course of a month, but it's always on business. So I'm running from the train or a parking garage and anxious to get where I'm going and, you know, still need to look like I'm ready for business. When I go in for an overnight, I'm relaxed. I'm not worried about hair and makeup. I'm worrying about driving back to Westchester after having a couple of drinks. So if you love the arts or history or architecture and good food, Philly is a good place to visit like a tourist. And so if you don't want to go away, and maybe have some extra points, plan a trip to the city. And I mean plan it, so you don't just go in and like futz around, that you know where you want to go, what you want to do, and how to get around on the Philly flesh. Now, you know, Lisa Scottoline is a Philly girl, Philly in Chester County. And I know Lisa Scottoline needs no introduction for those of you who are fervent fans of Rosato and DiNunzio. But for those of you who aren't as familiar with her yet, Lisa is the Edgar award-winning and New York Times bestselling author of 31 novels, including her latest work, After Anna. She also writes a weekly column in the Philadelphia Inquirer, and her daughter, Francesca Serritella, with her daughter called Chickwit, and it's like a witty and fun take on life from a woman's perspective. So Lisa's here with us for some Friday happy hour chick-chat. So go get some good happy hour, something to drink, and when we come back, I'll be with Lisa Scottoline. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.
Remember when you wished you had more time for yourself? And now you have it, but you notice you're keeping busy with stuff, but that stuff isn't making you feel happy or filled up? And when you think about what would make you happy and filled up, you get stuck or feel overwhelmed. And then you go back to what's more familiar, more comfortable, even if it's not making you happy. Wouldn't you love to find a way to start making sense of that deep discontent you're feeling? Well, you're not alone. I'm Annmarie Kelly, author, victory strategist, and the radio show host of the Friday Happy Hour. And I know there's a place for you, one that other women have found to be both inspirational and empowering. And it's the Victorious Woman Project. Go there now and get on my mailing list, where you'll be the first to know about my upcoming online workshops, teleseminars, and more. And while you're there, take a couple minutes to look over my blog. You can download some of the free stuff I have for you and let it get your creative juices going. I'm looking forward to meeting you at the Victorious Woman Project. And that's at www.victoriouswoman.com.
Welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour with me, Annmarie Kelly, and our guest today, author Lisa Scottoline. Welcome to Happy Hour, Lisa.
Oh, I'm so happy to be on. Are you kidding? It's great.
Oh, it is great. I'm so glad. Listen, Lisa, before we went to break, I was talking about how I spent Easter weekend in Philly as a tourist. Have you ever done that?
In Philly, where?
Yeah, right in Philly. We just rented a hotel room in Philly and became tourists. Usually I'm in there for business.
Oh, that's such a cute idea. No, I've never done that. I mean, I go in all the time, but never... I know. I mean, it's funny. I used to eat lunch in front of the Liberty Hall, but I've never really gone inside the Constitution Center practically. It's terrible.
Oh, and the Constitution Center is nice, and we did do the American Museum, the Revolutionary Museum. We did a lot of that stuff, but we stayed right across from City Hall, and that was a pretty neat thing. And you're a South Philly girl, right?
Yeah, but I'm really a Westchester girl, so it's, I don't get into the city much anymore. I live out here.
So do that sometime. Just rent a hotel room and just stay overnight and be a tourist. I'm in there.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Yeah, and go to Dante. Did you ever go to Dante and Luigi's in South Philly?
I love Dante and Luigi's. In fact, this will show you what an old timer I am. But I was in Dante and Luigi's having dinner the day before there was a mob hit on it at my table. You can imagine that.
Oh, no.
I know. So that's a good Philly memory for you.
I know. Both my parents grew up in South Philly, and when I used to go, I have a friend who is, they were the Maggio Cheese Company, Maggio Cheese.
Of course.
So that was like their go-to place. So when I would meet my girlfriend there, and one time I told my mother that I was going to Dante and Luigi's, and she was like, Sant'Antonia, you're going to get shot.
Well, she was right. You should have listened, Annmarie.
I know, Lisa, because I said, oh, Mom, that doesn't happen anymore. And then it did, so. Yeah. And there was another place. Did you ever go to Strolli's?
Of course. I love Strolli's.
Oh, I did. They made the best gnocchis.
On Dickinson. My mother made the best gnocchis. Sorry, I have to correct you there. Strolli's was pretty damn good.
Yeah, for not being homemade. When your mother made the gnocchis, did you do like the dimple?
Oh, the whole thing. The whole thing. She did the dimple. In fact, somebody wrote me the other day because I wrote about that in one of, I guess in the Inquirer column or in one of the books. And she said, no. She wrote me and said, no, your mom wasn't making gnocchi. She was making cavatelli. I'm like, believe me, I know what my mom was making, and they had dimples, okay?
No, well, but the difference is one's made with cottage cheese and one's made with potatoes, right?
Well, you can make it with both. You can make gnocchi with ricotta or with potatoes. My mother always made it with ricotta, or she said, ricotta.
That's right.
But
yes, absolutely.
You got to say it the way she said it, right?
That's right.
I'm like, what word are you saying?
I know. When I say that, and the people are like, what is that? Regatta.
Regatta.
Because they don't understand.
Well, it's funny because when you were raised with somebody like that, like in an Italian-American household, my mother used to say, the bread, like white bread, was metagon. And I was like, wow, what does that mean, metagon? And then when I got older, I realized the word she was saying was American. I'm like, Mom, we're American. Like, I'm American. Like, what are you talking about?
I know, but my mother never changed. And my mother is about the same age as your mother. So yeah, and that was just their thinking. My mother grew up on Carlisle Street.
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
Yeah,
oh, my God.
She grew up on the 1500 block of Carlisle, and my father grew up
I was going to say, because we're 15th and Wolf. We're like 9th and Wolf, 15th and Wolf, so.
Oh, how about that? Yeah.
We probably know people in common, but, that would be boring for your listeners.
My father, on the other hand, grew up on the wrong side of Broad Street. He was on Eisminger Street, so that was always a big joke with my parents.
Well, we used to joke about that, too, because my father was from West Philly and my mother was from South Philly. And I said to them once, you act like this is a mixed marriage. Like, you're from the same damn city. You're 10 blocks apart. Who are you kidding?
I know.
But oh, no.
Well, but Lisa, you know what? In your column last Sunday, I roared because you were talking about getting together with cousins that you didn't know well because there was a family feud.
Right.
And I thought to myself, I have that same story, and I'll bet you every one of us who have Italian blood have some story about a feud, and then you never talk to the people again.
Right. And you know what? The truth is, it's not only Italians, because I tell that story now, and people go, oh, my God, we're Jewish, it's the same thing. We're Polish, it's the same thing. Families are the same.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of great, like we all have our crazy things and our lovey things and all the great things. It's very rich. I love it. That's why I like writing about it. It's just wonderful, isn't it? It's wonderful.
It is wonderful. And that's, for me, that's why I like history so much, because when you find out, there's the factual history, but then there's like the undercurrent of history. And when you find out, some of the things that led people to do some of those things, I think, wow, that's, I could see that thought process in some people today, in myself today.
I'm sure. I think that's true about history. Sometimes I can't believe what, even our parents went through. World War, Depression. I mean,
right.
It's mind-boggling, really. I mean, the stories they told in the Depression. My father used to pick up cigarette butts and sell them, and I'm like, oh my God!
Oh wow, yeah.
A level of despair and deprivation and fear. We've been very, very lucky so far that we haven't had to experience
yeah,
that.
That's true. My father, when he was growing up, he got a scholarship to, I think, LaSalle, and he couldn't go because his parents couldn't afford to pay for the books.
Oh, isn't that heartbreaking?
Yeah, and
that's heartbreaking.
That's impossible to think of.
And as someone who loves books, too, I just love books, and that someone couldn't, I would have given them the books, I mean,
yeah.
Books, and education and books, they're the key. I mean, I really believe that, and Look, public education is so important. It's just all remarkable, really. And libraries. We're very lucky where we live to have such wonderful library system.
Yeah. And our Chester County library system is, I think, the best.
It's sensational. Sensational.
You know, Lisa, I'm curious, with all the books that you write, what made you decide to write a weekly column?
You know, well, the books that I write are just, like, they're about crime and justice and law, and they're exciting, but they're not funny. I mean, parts of them are funny because people can be funny, but I was kind of missing the funny. I like to joke around, and I remember that I loved reading Irma Bombeck in the newspaper, and actually remember, right? It's great. And I would just read the newspaper one, going, you know, I miss Irma Bombeck, and long story short, I really felt, God, Lisa, you should try to write that. But then I felt weird because, you know, she had a husband and she had a very conventional family. And I didn't have that. Like, I'm divorced. I felt like I'm not good enough. You know, you feel like, I can't do it. And then one day I just said, you know, why don't you just try it? I mean, a lot of people sadly widowed, and a lot of women are divorced, and you're just living your life. Maybe you just write a column about just living your life, but funny. And then my
Lisa,
daughter, I was talking too much about her, she started doing it, and we joined in.
Well, Lisa, you wrote one, and I don't remember all of it, but I read it on Sunday morning. I still actually get the newspaper.
I do too.
And you were talking about bras, and I was just hysterical.
Somebody's got to talk about bras, Annmarie.
I know, it's true.
Bras are, what can I tell you? We think about bras, and that's what I really wanted. I mean, I just wanted to be able to, you know, people have so much in common. And that's what we're talking about with families, too. And if you can focus on the commonalities, especially these days, everyone's all cranky.
Yeah.
And they're all divisive, and they're all blah, 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 blah. And you really focus on the stuff, because really the stuff that we have in common is the stuff that abides. That's the stuff that is going to matter 5 years from now.
Yep. And
that's the stuff that really matters.
You know, Lisa, when you wrote in your mother's last couple of weeks, and you were writing that column, and I don't know how you were able to do that, but it so mirrored so much of what I remember from my mother's passing, and she passed a couple of years before your mom, and it just broke my heart. And
I'm sorry for you.
Oh no, it was wonderful to read your outpouring of love in those columns. They were great.
Oh, that's lovely of you to say. And I think they really, you know, they are in books, and people still connect with that, because I think we've all sort of gone through that.
Yep.
And in a way that helped me through it, because I was like, I feel like when people, like what you just said, you know, you're touched by that. You're like, yeah, like, you think, especially when you become an adult, which if you're lucky, that's when you lose your parents.
Right.
I was like, wow, I should be doing better with this than I am. But you really don't. No. You really don't. Grief isn't like that. And
it takes its
time. For me, it wasn't. Yeah, it takes time, and then it's even weird. In fact, she passed on Palm Sunday, so every Easter I'm always a little mopey. And you're like, but it's also about rebirth, and you remember that, and finally it stopped snowing, so we have spring. And it's like, geez. But all that good stuff, that's the stuff of life, man, and that's the stuff that really we care about.
Now, you write a column with your daughter, Francesca Serritella. What's it like to do the column with her?
Well, it's awesome. Like, we never... I don't edit her, because like she always said, which makes me happy, she always like, I don't need an editor. I only have one mother, and that's what I need. I'm like,
that's
okay.
Nice.
Yeah, so, and we didn't even really talk about what we're going to write about. Sometimes she'll tell a story, and I'll go, you know, that would make a good column. And we just try to tell the stuff about our normal lives. And I'm always a little surprised. Like, there's a time, I remember I wrote about how... I always read the obituaries, and then she wrote a column about it, and I always worry, oh my God, I'm always counting down from the age. I'm 70, he died at 75, I had 10 more years, whatever it is. And she started reading, and she wrote a column the very next week, which we hadn't compared at all, about how she reads the wedding announcements and go, oh my God, I have to meet somebody, I only have 3 years left. Like, we're always counting down from something in the newspaper. It's very strange. But you know, that's sort of the commonalities too. Like, what are the commonalities within a family?
Yes.
I mean, look, mothers and daughters are a thing. And we drive each other crazy sometimes, but that's probably because in some ways we're really a lot alike, which is scary.
Yeah, that is kind of scary. I know how when I see stuff, I was coughing the other day, and I heard my mother, and I thought, oh my God, it's like hearing my mother.
You know, that's so interesting you say that, because I was thinking the other day, my father used to have a very distinctive cough. And I was thinking the other day, wow, I haven't, it was distinctive. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. It's interesting. I want to tell you this, with Francesca, the column that she wrote that most struck me was the one where she talked about her assault. And I remember being, if I were her mother, Lisa, I would have been so proud, because she handled it victorious woman style, and she talked about what happened, just the courage that she had to do that. But then she talked about the people who helped her, and finding her glasses and stuff like that. It was a really wonderful column.
Oh, you're sweet to say that. We'll have to come on and talk to you when she's in the book in the summertime, because we have it coming out, and it's called I See Life Through Rose-Colored Glasses. And, she thought of that title, and I thought back weirdly to the assault, because I thought it was brave of her. I mean, she was mugged, and she was very badly beaten. I mean, her face, you wanted to kill somebody. And, but like you said, she said, that nice person got my glasses. And I thought, you wear glasses and you get hit. And it's just a hard, sad thing. But she did it. And she wrote it in her own good time. She wasn't able to write it right away, which I totally respected. I mean, you can't.
That's a hard thing.
She did.
Yeah.
And it was hard, too, because she didn't want to go, oh, poor me, oh, this bad thing. You're not trying to get people's sympathy. So she actually felt like, she was worried people would think that. I said, no one's going to think that, honey. Because the sad thing is, unfortunately, a lot of people are victims of crime. And I hope that they will connect with what you're saying, and I'm sure they will.
Well, I read it and I thought, wow, I just thought how courageous she was to put it out there, but it was very graceful, I thought.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
Lisa, we need to take a break. So when we come back, let's talk about After Anna.
Sure.
Everybody hang in there with us. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.
Hi, this is Annmarie Kelly, author, victory strategist, and the radio show host of the Friday Happy Hour. I trust you're enjoying my conversation with this fabulous, victorious woman. If you're getting inspired with ideas and feeling empowered, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's more for you. Tips, downloads, resources at the Victorious Woman Project. Go to victoriouswoman.com and look around and get on my mailing list so you can be the first to know about the newest good things I have for you. That's www.victoriouswoman.com.
Welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour. I'm Annmarie Kelly, and I'm here with author Lisa Scottoline. So, Lisa, you've written 31 books. That's amazing.
Well, you're very kind. Actually, 31 novels and 8 memoirs, because the columns are in books as well. So. Oh,
that's right.
I'm cooking with gas. I'm trying anyway. I am trying. I feel very, very lucky and really blessed to be in this job. And it's a really fun job. And I get to do it in my home in lovely Westchester. So it's kind of great. Doesn't get better than this, really.
And you After Anna is just coming out, and you have the book in the summertime with Francesca, and then don't you have a Rosato and DiNunzio coming out in the fall?
I do. Thank you for asking. I have that's coming out on August 10th, I think it is. It's called Feared. And they're fun to write, too.
And we love Rosato and DiNunzio.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you got to have a little South Philly going on.
You do.
And, again, those books are really about family. Those books are so much about, since it's a series, although I try to write it so you don't have to have read the earlier ones to read the one that's coming out in August. But, what's up with Mary, what's it like to be trying to juggle home and family, that's her new thing. And at the same time, she's got a path to grow on, and what is she doing? And she's coming up against her adversary, the evil Dark Prince of South Philly, Nick Machiavelli. So that's fun to write about. It's fun to write about.
Well, I'm really curious. What did you read when you were growing up?
I read everything because I was a crazy library kid. I was one of those kids, they took me to the library, and I was like in heaven. But the real one was Nancy Drew.
Me too.
I was crazy in love with Nancy Drew. I think a lot about Nancy Drew because I think a little... she was so, I think she was a little ahead of her time. And also, let's be real, there were not a lot of other books that had a girl in the lead. So
it was Nancy Drew and
right?
Cherry Ames.
Cherry Ames, student nurse, Army nurse. Please, I have them right now in front of me. I collected Cherry Ames.
I read all of the names. I started with Bobbsey Twins when I was younger, and moved on to Nancy Drew and then Cherry Ames. Yeah,
but Nancy Drew was it for me because, and I collect them too because I just thought she was in that little red. Remember the blue Roadster? You know, she had a roadster. Yeah, you never forget that she was always driving around having adventures, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that.
And her friend Georgie.
And Beth. Didn't you have Beth?
Oh, that's right, Beth and George. That's right.
Yeah. And Nick Nickerson was her boyfriend. She had a boyfriend. Right. Lucky girl.
She did.
She's doing better than I am.
Oh, my goodness.
Sports car and a boyfriend and adventures. What else do you need, really?
I know. I still remember some of the descriptions that were used. And you know what, Lisa? You do that. You write descriptions, and I'm remembering the first time I think I noticed it was, and I'm trying to remember, I won't remember the book, but it was a book on tape that I was listening to, and you were describing cigarette smoke. And I just remember, wow, the way you described it, like wafting up from the cigarette, I thought, that is such a neat way of the way you do. How do you do that? How do you do that description?
You. You sit there and I say to myself, because the thing that what you really have to do is you have to describe it through the character's eyes, or it's got to add something because it has to be interesting. Because, like you say, otherwise you're like someone smoking, but. You have to try to look at everything with new eyes and really you just have to really try to think harder and describe it more as accurately as you possibly can, and then maybe you can make something out of it. Otherwise, it's not worth doing.
Well, and one of the ones that I really liked in After Anna was that you say that Maggie let herself be cuddled in the sun. And I thought, what a great description.
Oh,
you know, we understand that. You know, if you're laying on the beach in Avalon, you know what that feels like to be cuddled by the sun.
Yeah. No, you're nice to say that.
So in After Anna, this is a story, Lisa, about a teenage girl who wasn't in her mother's life from the time she was a baby, and then suddenly she calls her mother Maggie, and Maggie gets a call from Anna, and Anna wants to be Maggie's life again, and that's the basic premise. And
right.
So where do you get ideas like that? And I don't want to give it away, but it was really good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I know it's coming out this Tuesday. I'm excited. The idea, I try to get, the answer is from my life. You know, I'm divorced twice. I've had stepkids. And also, I always like to write about family. All my books are about family, and crime and justice. But when in this book, I was like, it's a little bit like we're saying with Irma Bombeck. Not all families are like Ozzie and Harriet to go back,
That's right.
Here is everybody. It's all, so here, what I'm trying to say is there's estrangement in families. I've had estrangement in my family, and I know what that's about. And so here is a woman who basically was estranged from her daughter, and that's another thing I wanted to write about because she actually lost custody of her daughter. I mean, a lot about After Anna is about motherhood and what is a good mother. And she lost custody of her daughter, and you probably say, oh, what kind of person loses custody? Except there's lots of reasons. And one is that she had a form of postpartum depression. She had postpartum psychosis. And that's a treatable condition, and she got treatment for it. But there's a period when, in the book, when her ex-husband sort of takes advantage of that situation, and she loses custody of her child. So her whole life, she kind of pines away for the kid. And when the kid finally comes back, she thinks it's going to be the best thing ever that happens until, we won't give it away, but I mean, like, until events turn deadly, as they say. Bad things happen, and then we got to see what happens next. But the idea came from family and all the different ways family can be wonderful, but also painful.
And that's true. I don't think there's anyone listening today who wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that people feel that way. I certainly do. You can't, not always, I don't know, I like to write about real, even though it's fiction, it has to feel emotionally true, and it has to be realistic. So I don't like reading about perfect families. I don't even know one. I love everybody in my family, even though they drive me nuts, and that's real.
So Lisa, when you get an idea, like, do the ideas come to you like in a dream, or do you like? Is there a way that you get those ideas?
I think you kind of get them. You're so nice to ask. I think I kind of just, I'm doing 2 novels a year, and I only work on 1 novel at a time. And since I don't really do an outline, so I kind of like, well, what's going to happen? Now what's going to happen? So I don't really know what's going to happen, so I'm always a little nervous. Because I'm like, I have to tell myself the story and write it down as I go. And so the idea usually comes, I don't even get the ideas why I get an idea when I'm finished the book. Like, it's kind of like something's been percolating, and you go, that would be interesting to read. That could be an interesting situation. Because it has to be something really major. It can't just be, I mean, I like drama. The books are dramatic. They're thrillers. They move fast. I hope, I mean, a lot of look, I've been in the business for a long time. People say page turners. I like that I do that. But it has to be sufficient to hold someone's interest and not bore them to tears. So sometimes those ideas, they just come to you. I'm very lucky they come to me. I think everybody, look, in the real world, I think everybody's a great storyteller, and a lot of people should be writing books because everyone has great stories. I mean, you can be in a ladies' room for 5 minutes and you're like 2 great stories right away.
I know.
Every time I'm in a bathroom, I'm like, man, this woman should write this book, man. You should write a book.
Right. I have to tell you that more times than I can tell you, I come out of the ladies' room and my spouse says, what took you so long? And I say, well, I met this lady and she was telling me this story.
Right. That's so funny. That is so true. I totally agree with you.
Well, I have to tell you, this, when you say a page turner, I stayed up on Tuesday night. I finished after Anna at 1 o'clock. It was a little after 1 o'clock in the morning because I had to wait. I just got to that point where I just couldn't wait till tomorrow to find out who done it.
Oh, you're so nice. That makes me so happy to hear.
Don't you love when a book is like that, where you have to go almost to the last page?
I love books like that.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is terrible to say, but I actually skip ahead sometimes. I just want to make sure that everybody lived, or I want to know who lived. It's terrible, but I do that. And when you're writing it too, like this book, I'm like, how is this going to resolve? Like, how is this going to end? Oh, I hope it ends okay. And I got to make sure all the animals are okay. I can never read something if like a dog dies or.
Well, but Lisa, as prolific as you are, and you're writing to a year, and the column, like, do you ever get writer's block?
No, I mean, knock wood, I don't. I feel like I have too many stories. I feel like, there's just so much cool stuff, and I just feel really lucky, honestly. I just think, oh, my God, if I like it, I can write about it. Usually it's stuff that, I get to research stuff. For example, I researched postpartum depression for this book. There's a little boy in the book who has special needs. He has something called childhood apraxia of speech, which he has a hard time. He's very, very smart, but he has a hard time forming words. And I got to learn about that and what it's like to be a mother of a child like that. And you go, wow, these are mothers that have to, like, do everything every mother has to do, and then they got to drill their kid. You have to teach your child how to speak at age 10, 11, 12. And so the ideas just come, and it's so interesting to be able to, stay kind of curious about life and intellectually curious and see, I want to learn about that. Because that's what I love about reading. I think people who read, we're intellectually curious. We're like, tell us a story. Take us somewhere. Let me be in your consciousness. It's the same thing as being a reader, being a writer. You're just, wow. We're along for the same ride. And that's very true of everything I write.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. And I never thought about it, but I think so I write nonfiction, so it's a little bit different. But I like when I'm reading fiction because it takes me totally out of where I am to a whole other place.
Well, nonfiction, I read a lot. I love nonfiction, like memoir, and I read because I read so many books for research. So I feel like anytime I read, even if it's nonfiction, like, look, history, if you read history, it's taking you out of where you are reading is an amazing thing. I think people would be so much happier if they would read more. I'm sure people's eyes are rolling, but a lot of people are nodding because, it's so centering and great.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people nodding because I think it's such a blessing to have it. And even if you're getting it, even if you have to do it in audio, that's not quite the same as reading paper, but.
No, but that's when you said that you do me in audio, because I love audiobooks. And, now you can download them on your phone, which is unreal.
Yeah.
So
well, you know why, Lisa?
why? I love that.
Lisa, they don't. I bought a new car a couple months ago, and there's no CD player anymore, so I can't even go to the library and get CDs.
No, you have to do it on your phone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of great because, I walk the dogs. So if I walk the dogs around the block, I have something to listen to, and I get all involved. If I listen in the car, because I can play it through the car, I start missing exits, which I have to be careful. But I love audio. I think it is a very cool way, especially for people who are busy or you're sitting on a plane or something. You just listen to someone tell you a story, man. You're going to be happier at the end of the day.
Yeah,
other than, playing games or scrolling Facebook or all that stuff that we all do.
Lisa, we need to take another break. So if everybody stay with us, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Friday Happy Hour.
Are you one of those women who lived the first part of your life as a really good girl? That is, you did all the right things and followed all the so-called rules for women? I was like that too. But have you noticed that once you passed 40, you have less patience for those rules? Maybe you even think that the rules really don't make sense for you anymore. Maybe they never did and you just didn't realize it. Do you want to go where other recovering good girls meet to inspire each other and support their new empowered selves? Then join me, Annmarie Kelly, and some very fabulous victorious women. We're on Facebook at the Victorious Woman Project. So go to facebook.com/Victorious Woman Project. I'll talk to you there.
Welcome back to the Friday Happy Hour. This is Annmarie Kelly, and I'm here with author Lisa Scottoline. And Lisa, I have to ask you this question. You are so connected to your readers, and they're fervent fans. And I'm curious, how did that start? And what's your secret sauce for staying connected?
Oh, aren't you sweet? First off, I love them. It's really simple. I mean, I'm grateful to them. They have supported me and grown my career for 30 years and 30 books. And I always think every time, because you have to think about the person, and I'm lucky enough that they will read book to book. So you have to always think I have to deliver for them, and I want to do something fresh and different. I always want it to feel good and new and surprising, and the twists have to be right. And I think I was helped early on by, partly that I live in the area and that I used to do a lot of signings when I just first went out. I would do 3 signings a day. Honestly, I would just drive myself around with the card table. It was really a little pathetic. but all of the local bookstores would have me. And I think I built a fan base, and I think social media started up because I started writing in 1994. So then social media started, and people had something called email, and then I answered all my email. Now I can't answer quite as much, but I'll answer email sometimes. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and it's not some mega corporation. It's me.
Yeah.
The pictures are my dogs in my house. And I think I write back as many people as I can, but I think people appreciate that I feel like I'm a real deal, the real deal. And they feel that. They know it. People have good BS detectors. So if the books deliver and you're a nice person, and I like connecting with them. I'm just about to start tour. I'm going to be in Newtown, starting tomorrow, and then I leave for Phoenix, and then it gets more national, and then I come back home. But it's wonderful I know how lucky I am to go to a signing and have a whole bunch of people there, and because I remember when I had 2 people. I remember when my father was the only one who went to a signing of mine.
Wow.
And when there's story after story that are so funny, and I remember the time I was signing. It was in Cleveland, Ohio, and no one. I got there early, and no one showed up. And then when I went to the ladies' room, and then I come out, and all the booksellers had taken off their little aprons, and they were in the audience pretending they were my audience.
Oh, my.
Which was so touching and cute. And I'm like, wait, guys, listen. This is really sweet, but I just met you 5 minutes ago, and I know who you are. Like, even when you take your little aprons off.
Yeah. Oh,
so I remember those days really, really well. I'll tell you a quick story. I remember the time when I was, it was in Jenkintown. Now, right now I would get a crowd in Jenkintown, but back then, nobody there. I go out, there's one woman in the front row. She's an older woman, lovely, lovely face. And I sit there and I do the whole signing. I always tell stories, I tell jokes, I do anything, right?
And you throw out tasty cakes.
I used to throw out tasty cakes when they would mail them for me. And then I said to her, do you have any questions? And she said, Vunda, but she did not speak a word of English. She was Swedish. Mm. She was just sitting in the empty chair to try to rest. Oh. And she was not there for the signing at all. And I bought her the book. I gave her the book. I'm like, lady, you're a doll. Thank you for listening to me and not like getting up and walking away. So I remember those days really well. So I connect with readers, so I'm grateful for each and every one of them. Everyone.
Well, I have to tell you, my cousins, Chris and Chrissy, were at your house last fall for your book event. And Chris said you are the consummate host.
Oh, how nice.
And how did those get started? You do them once a year?
I do them once a year. But the long story short for people who don't know is I was so happy to see the book clubs were starting to read my books, whether it's the funny books or the mysteries or the thrillers, they're reading them. And I said, we should have a party for book clubs who have read me to sort of say thank you. And I always say it's a thing. It's from my mother, because she's like, if you really appreciate someone, you have to have them over and you have to feed them carbohydrates. That's just how we are. And so 13 years ago, we started doing it. 100 people came, and we do it every October. For people who read, book clubs who read after Anna, all they have to do is send a picture. They have to each hold up a picture of the book, so they have to have bought the book and show the picture and send it in, and they get automatically invited to the house. We have now 500 people per day. We hold it for 2 days, so 500 on one day, 500 on the next. I get it catered. It's a whole thing, but it's really, really, I'm glad that they came. I loved it. I mean, because I love meeting the readers, and the best of all is it's just very nice to say thank you to them. It doesn't cost anything, and I just am so grateful that they're here. It's really my daughter and I, we look forward to it every year. I mean, it's really nice.
Well, it is a really nice thing, and you are going to be in Exton next week.
Right.
I think it's on the 15th. You're going to be at Barnes & Noble in Exton.
I forget. They'll have to look on the website. Look at Scottoline.com and you'll see the actual day.
Yeah, on today's radio wrap-up at victoriaswoman.com, I put the next two. It's Exton, and I think Exton's at 4 o'clock. And then the next week, I think you're going to be at Costco in King of Prussia from 12 to 2.
Right.
And then I put the link, then there's a link to the page that has everything till July.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah. I appreciate that.
And so it's quite a schedule, and you're traveling around, you're doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, that's the fun part. I mean, I get out of my little dog crate, and I get to go actually jump into his laps and start hugging people and signing books. And I'm a very, very lucky lady, and I know it.
Before we go, I have a bone to pick with you.
What?
You mentioned cheesesteaks in Anna, and you talked about Geno's and Pat's and Jim's.
Yes.
My favorite's Tony Luke. You forgot Tony Luke.
I forgot it. Because I associate Tony Luke with the fries.
Oh.
You're right. I should have put that in. You're right.
Because it's all about the bread.
Oh, my God. White House. You need the roll from down the shore. I don't know where Margate, you can get them in Margate, but it is all about the bread. It's a lot about the bread.
Yeah. Lisa,
sooner or later, everything's about the bread.
Yeah, that's true. It's the carbs, I know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Lisa, this was so much fun to have you, and I hope when your book comes out in the summer, you and Francesca can join us for Happy Hour.
Please have us. We'd love it. You're a homegirl. I know.
Well, thank you so much for coming to Happy Hour. Have a victorious weekend.
Thank you, honey bunny. You too.
Okay, thank you. Well, Victory Chicks and you guys, I hope you had fun this hour with me and Lisa Scottoline, and I hope you have a great weekend too. And don't forget, Lisa's book signing is next week in Exton on the 15th, and I'm doing one at the Marple Library in Broomall. Lisa's is on the 15th. Mine's on the 14th. I'm on Saturday. And for those of you who know, the Marple Library is on 320 in Broomall, down the street from sort of halfway between Westchester Pike and the Lawrence Park Shopping Center. So I will be there with people you know, Donna Cavanaugh, who is Humor Outcast, and Kathy Sikorsky, who's our elder care attorney. So we're talking, and there's several other people. So we will be there on Saturday afternoon, the 14th. And I posted a link to the flyer. I posted the flyer on today's radio wrap-up at victoriously.com. Also, check out the interview I did with Shaman Annmarie. And it's an hour long, but you can just go through different pieces of the video. But it's an interesting link, and we talked about some interesting things. And I picked today's quote with a thought that Mother Nature might be listening and get her butt in gear to give us spring. It's April. We're supposed to be having snow tomorrow. Although Joseph told me the other day it was 6 inches, but today they said it was just going to be a nuisance snow. But it doesn't matter. Either way, I think she forgot, or she's been too lazy to change the calendar. So I want her to know what poet Margaret Elizabeth Sangster knew when she said, "Never yet was a springtime when the buds forgot to bloom." But Mother Nature, you need to turn the calendar or something so those buds can bloom. So and I just wanted to tell you also, I've been having some interesting conversations with people about the 5-year marriage, and I'm getting such wonderful responses. If you get a chance to go on the website, it's 5yearmarriage.com, and I think I posted the Annmarie video there too. And I think by next week, my voice should be back to normal. And whatever is going on with my voice today, I don't think it's allergies. I think it was laryngitis or something. But thank you all for coming today. Have a victorious weekend. I hope to talk with you next week back in my regular voice. Jen's on.
Thanks for listening to this Friday Happy Hour. Make sure you subscribe, rate and review today's show. And join us again next week for the Friday Happy Hour with Annmarie Kelly. 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 Friday Happy Hour with Annmarie Kelly.